Sophie and Braden, thank y'all for coming today and giving me a chance to talk a little bit about some of the exciting changes that students are going to see on their schedule when they get their classes. Miss Abel says that y'all should be able to see your classes in Blackbaud the first week of August. Typically, she sends an email out to let you know when your classes are going to be there and you can go and look at them. And there are just some things I wanted a chance to talk to you and all of our other 7th and 8th graders about that's exciting for next year, that's a little different from what we talked about when we first met and talked about classes in January and February. So are y'all good? And y'all just stop me when you have questions. So the first thing that's going to look a little bit different on your schedule when you see it are your English classes. So you know how in 6th grade we have 2 English classes? You had reading, writing, and then you had like a literature class, and then or in language where you did grammar and vocabulary, and then it kind of was like that again for 7th grade, and then 8th graders only had 1 class. So what we're doing for next year is every grade level is going to have 2 English language arts classes. But to cut down on some confusion, we're going to give them kind of all the same names throughout the 3 years. So one of the classes is going to be called English Language and Composition. So that class is going to be where you kind of learn to write academically, professionally, and personally, learn different styles of writing for all kinds of purposes, with still a focus on grammar and vocabulary. The other class is going to be called English Literature and Composition. So in that class, you are still doing a lot of writing, but you're writing to communicate what you've analyzed about a work of literature. So it's still writing, it's still a focus on our writing skills. We're still reading in both classes, but kind of a little bit of a different focus. So language and composition is one, and literature and composition is the other. And those will be in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And I'll talk a little bit more about the 8th grade stuff in a minute. So what kind of questions do you have for me?
So will it be the same class for every grade?
So nope, different teachers, and the curriculum is a little bit different for every grade level. So 6th grade still has their own 6th grade 2 English language arts classes, and 7th grade still has their own 2. So it's not mixed grade levels. Does that make sense? And the information and what you're expected to learn and apply changes a little bit and gets a little bit harder each year. Yeah? That makes sense? Okay, good. So at least it's hopefully our goal was partly to clarify where it's called read, write versus literature versus grammar, and kind of what happens in each of those classes. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons that we chose those titles is because we look at what our high schoolers do. And in high school, in junior and senior year, the highest level classes you can take at St. Luke's are AP. And there's an AP Literature and Composition, and guess what the other one is? AP Language and Composition. So we're looking at what we would have to do at the high school level and really kind of tailoring that down so that we're ready and working towards that goal even starting in 6th grade. That's how we chose our names. So you know, for STEM next year, all grade levels in middle school, it's all about robotics. We're going to build some robots. Does that make you excited? Yeah, I felt so. Okay, so 7th grade again is doing music, STEM, visual arts, and theater. And then 8th grade is actually going to get to rotate instead of having to pick one elective, because that's what it was like for 7th grade and 8th grade. You really only got to pick one. So now we're still going to do a lot of different things. So 8th grade is actually going to rotate between an engineering class, a visual arts class, a STEM class, and a theater class. So sort of 2 in the fine arts and 2 in the STEM, just to give a little bit more for our goal of increasing our awareness in STEM. What kind of questions do you have for me about those electives? And does that sound exciting to not have to just do one?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I really didn't know which one to pick.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, which is part of the reason we did it, because we want y'all to still have a love for all of those things and don't want to force you to have to pick one and have to stick with it just yet. So you still get to explore and see what you like or don't like, and hopefully by high school you have a better idea of what you would want your electives to be. Yeah.
Because it's robotics, will it be a different teacher than it was last year?
So a lot of teachers are changing, and I'm not going to release that information just yet, but we're kind of changing the way we do STEM. So for next year, we're going to have one teacher who's going to teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade STEM, because that teacher is going to do all the robotics for next year. So that one teacher is getting trained to do the robotics introduction for all of our grade levels next year. And I'll tell you too, it's supposed to be Lego robotics, so even cooler. Good question. Anything else for electives that's confusing or y'all have questions about?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, so the next big thing that we want to talk about is foreign language. So in 6th grade, in the past, we've had no foreign language. And then in 7th grade, typically you take one semester of foreign language. And then in 8th grade, you take the kind of like the second semester of foreign language for Spanish. And then in 8th grade, we used to take one semester of Latin. So St. Luke's has been looking at how we can do even more in foreign language. And our plan is to take the next 2 years to adjust our middle school curriculum so that students, when they leave 8th grade, can go even further into a foreign language, like up to level 4, and maybe even take the AP exam in foreign language if they want to, by their junior year of high school, which is a pretty big goal. But to do that, we kind of need to backtrack and look at what we're doing in middle school for those of y'all who are with us 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We want y'all to be even more ready to move forward in your foreign language. So to do that, we're going to change a few things this year, and then we'll change a few things the next year. So that kind of makes sense. So it's you guys that get the benefit of it. So the big difference is in 7th grade of this year, we're actually not going to take Spanish. And that seems like backwards from what I just said. But our goal is that we don't want to take half of it in 7th grade and then wait and take the other half in 8th grade. So for you guys that are rising 7th grade, we're going to pause on the Spanish for 1 year. And our goal is in 8th grade that you would be able to take an entire year of Spanish that year and potentially move on to the next level in high school if you're ready, or if not, we can do it kind of again as a recovery grade. Does that make sense? So for 7th graders for next year, that is a big difference, that we were planning to do one semester of Spanish, but now instead we're going to do our arts in there and do that 4 quarters of the electives instead of just half a year of electives. So we'll do a whole year of electives, and your Spanish we're going to kind of postpone so that you can take a whole consecutive year of Spanish versus the 2 semesters separated between the school year. 8th graders have already had a semester of Spanish from last year. So we are going to finish their second half of Spanish in 8th grade. Does that make sense? Because they've already had half of it. We'll finish that half this year. So 8th graders will still take half of a year of Spanish in 8th grade. The big deal for 8th graders is Latin. So typically they also take a semester of Latin. What we wanted to do was really switch to an application-based learning of Latin. So how is it really used? How is it used in our world? How do we use it to get ready for test prep? So the Latin is actually going to be taught as an embedded curriculum. So it's kind of within the curriculum in their language class. So remember how we talked about the language and composition and the literature and composition? Mm-hmm. So for them, their focus for vocabulary and grammar is going to be on Latin and Greek root words and how they help us use our context clues, how they help us understand what we're reading, and then their studies, what they use is going to be literature based to some degree, so they can read like some mythology to actually learn and apply their new knowledge of the Greek and Latin root words. So they're learning a good bit of Latin and they're getting a foundation in Latin, but it's not a full semester of just Latin. It's Latin taught within context, so within their reading, within our English language and how it relates really to our everyday lives, so that they can see how that is so applicable and like that we use Latin and Greek already every day. Any questions about that? That's a little different.
I don't think so.
Do you feel okay? Are you okay with the language change? So we're kind of giving up in 7th grade, right? The Spanish, so that we can have a full year of it in 8th grade. And then the 8th graders are still kind of getting everything they would normally get, but the Latin is kind of being taught in a little bit of a different way. And the course itself is not just called Latin, but it's still only one semester for 8th grade. So that language class for them with the Latin is only 1 semester.
So in 8th grade, would you have Spanish the whole year and then Latin just 1 semester?
For like one more year from now? Is that what you're asking about? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like right now, the rising 7th graders are doing something different. The rising 8th graders are doing something sort of different, but not a full change just yet. So we'll kind of have to figure out what that looks like, and we'll evaluate that course, how they are learning the Latin, and decide whether it was as effective as we wanted it to be. And if it was, we'll keep it, and if not, we'll change gears and do something a little bit different. So we'll evaluate how that worked before we say yes 100% to how we'll do it the next year. Any other questions about the foreign language? You know what I did want to talk about? Math placement. Can you talk about that for a second? So the other thing you'll see is your math class. So your teachers from last year made recommendations based on your performance and just kind of how you did throughout the year. They made recommendations about where students should be placed the following year for math. So when you look in Blackbaud and see your schedule, your math course should be based on your teacher's recommendation and kind of your grades from last year. But if you and your parents aren't comfortable with that math placement, like either you're concerned because it's a step up and you're concerned it might be a little too hard, or you think you're ready for more of a challenge than we thought, and you'd like to consider moving at a faster pace, a more accelerated rate, then your parents can email me directly so that we can just talk about what our options are in terms of changing that math placement. So again, when you look at your math placement, it's based on your teacher's recommendations from last year, but your parents can reach out and we can talk about other options if they think that maybe you need to be in a different math than we placed you in for next year. Are y'all ready for the next thing? Mm-hmm. Okay, the next thing is U-block.
Yeah,
I'm you're excited? Okay. So the next big thing I want to talk about is y'all had like a teaser that was sent out about U-block. What do you think it is?
I don't really know.
I feel like it might be like sort of a study hall.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or like something for the students because it's called U-block.
Ooh, you got our little punny. That's so good. So it is a time that is supposed to be a time for students to have a unique connection with other students and to explore and discover something that's not necessarily only you like or only you like, but you can find a group of students who together y'all have this interest in common. So every Wednesday for 45 minutes, we're going to meet in U-Block, the whole campus. It's just a university campus thing. So we'll be sending you a survey and you will get to select the U-Block classes. And I call it class, but we'll talk a little more about why it sounds like a class, but it might not be like your normal classes. So you'll get to select the U-Blocks that you're most interested in. And then when we get all the information back, we'll start matching students with classes. So it's 6th through 8th grade. So if there are 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders who have the same interest, we'll make a small class size out of that, and they can all be together to explore this one thing. And it's just for a quarter. So we'll do one U-Block for quarter 1, and then you'll have an opportunity to select something different that you're interested in for quarter 2. Does that make, and so on and so forth. So I don't want to give away all the surprises just yet, but they'll be really fun courses. So I'll give you some examples. Legos. Let's just build stuff with Legos. Does that sound fun? Mm-hmm. Sounds fun to me. How about survival skills? Mm-hmm. Would you like to do a course on survival skills? Maybe. Yeah. What about karaoke? Would you want to sing karaoke for 45 minutes? But somebody out there does. we have all kinds of ideas. And so we'll have some of these courses in the first quarter, some of them in the second quarter, and then y'all will also help give us ideas for the next classes and the next classes and the next classes. So we have a whole list of about 30 classes, and we're pairing instructors with those classes right now. And we'll send you guys the list of choices for first quarter, and you'll kind of pick your favorites, like your top 3, and then we'll try to match those up. And if there's a lot of interest in one class, we'll try to, if we can't do it all in the first quarter, we'll cycle it again and do it second quarter and all that, so you can get it throughout the school year. So if you have ideas, send them in, but look for the survey that will give you some choices for what you want to do with your U-Block next year. What do you want to know about U-Block? What have I not told you that you want to know?
So it's just on Wednesday, right?
Just on Wednesdays next year. See how we like it, see if it works, and see if we want to do more of it. What if I told you there were no tests?
In U-Block?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
So like, at the end, you won't be tested on what you...
No. Does it blow your mind?
It doesn't feel like school.
Ooh, it doesn't? Okay, well, you know what? That's kind of the point sometimes, right? Like, we want our school to do the job that school's supposed to do, but if y'all leave at the end of the day and think, well, that was fun and not like what I thought school was supposed to be, that's really kind of a cool thing, I think. What if I told you that you didn't even necessarily have to get a grade for the class? Does it make you feel weird? Like, how would you know you did a good job? So in your U-Block, one of the things that y'all will decide as a group is how you will know if you have learned a thing, if you've done a good job, and set a goal. So, for the group, you might have a goal of doing something within the school or a goal of learning a new thing by the end of the U-Block quarter. And so y'all will decide how, as a group, you have mastered the thing in U-Block.
So will you keep doing the same activity for all the weeks on Wednesday, or will you change?
Yeah, for just one quarter. So in the first quarter, that will only be 8 Wednesdays.
Okay.
So you'll meet with the U-Block only 8 times in the first quarter. So you'll have 8 times to do whatever it is that you as a U-Block in that course decide to do. It might be a project that y'all decide to work on. It might be a program that you decide to do. It might be a skill set that you say, okay, well, we can all do these 3 things. Then we've kind of learned what we wanted to learn in U-Block. And y'all will kind of set with students and an instructor the tone for what the expectations are in terms of what you get out of the class.
For the U-Block, will it just take like 5 minutes off of each class, or about that time?
Yeah, so if you think about like chapel schedule, so you know how we go to chapel in the morning and then every class after that's a little bit shorter? So it'll kind of be like that schedule, except it won't be in the morning, it'll be after break.
Oh, I thought it'd be at the end of the day.
No, it's gonna be like our first 2 classes, break, and then U-Block, and then our last classes. Ooh, you know something else that's gonna be different next year? Our classes are gonna be numbered 1 through 7.
Instead of like A.
1, 2, A, B.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it.
Yeah, that was
2,
kinda
ABL, 3, 4. Yeah, so the new kids who are coming in 6th grade, they won't have to memorize that. They'll just have to know numbers 1 to 7,
Yeah, I
whichever
always
they
just
all
called
do.
it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah. So we're gonna renumber it so that it helps everybody a little bit. What do y'all think about that? Are your minds blown? Are you
Yeah.
anxious to see the list?